Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm excited for today's video because I am going to be sharing a houseplant tour as well as giving you lots of tips for growing houseplants. I get asked about this all the time, especially on Instagram because I share a lot of pictures of my houseplants. So I'm going to give you a lot of tips. This video is sponsored by Skillshare. I have been learning so much on Skillshare from a botanist. His name is Chris Satch and he's with the Sill. He has very informative videos on Skillshare. I have talked about Skillshare many times on my channel, but if you aren't familiar, it's an online learning community. They have thousands of classes about just about everything really. Productivity, photography, creative writing, lots of different crafts, cooking, you name it. They have classes about a lot of things and I really enjoy different topics. I've learned a lot and I've shared some things in different videos. I'll be sharing some of the things that I've learned about houseplants later in this video. A premium membership to Skillshare gives you unlimited access to high quality classes from experts in their field. Like I mentioned, I have been watching a botanist and learning a lot of different things about houseplants, and there's experts in lots of different fields. My viewers can get 2 months of Skillshare Premium for free by using the link in the description box below. After your free 2 months, a Skillshare Premium membership is very affordable. It's less than $10 a month. Now I'm going to take you on a tour of all of my houseplants. You all know how much I love my houseplants, and then I will share lots of helpful tips with you. Now for the tips. I have a lot of them. I tried to cover things that I get asked a lot and just some things that I think will be really helpful. I know some of you want to get into having houseplants in your home and some of you are experts. So hopefully there's a little bit of information for everyone. Let's first talk about purchasing a houseplant, what to look for. Of course, we want vibrant, green, beautiful plants that are healthy. And you don't want to purchase a plant that has brown or yellowing leaves because that means it's not as healthy. Now, some of you may be a little more advanced and choose to rescue a plant, and I have done that, and you can do that. But if you're just starting out, I would say look for a vibrant, green, healthy plant, and also look for new growth that looks healthy. Sometimes you'll see a new bud, but it is dry and just doesn't look very healthy, so make sure it's nice and green, has some new growth on it. Also, think about the light in your home. Do you have a lot of direct sunlight? Do you have partial sun? Do you have low light? A lot of plants, pretty much all plants, will have a tag on it that says the type of light it prefers, and that is really important because if you don't get a lot of sunlight in your home, you may want to avoid things like succulents and cacti because they need a lot of bright sunlight. But there are still a lot of plants that do well in low light, or they don't really need a lot of bright sunlight. Another important thing to keep in mind is how large this plant is going to get. Some of my plants are getting very large, and I knew that, and we have the room for it, but at my previous home, I definitely couldn't have a large houseplant, and we have high ceilings, so it works. But if you are in a smaller space, you just want to make sure that you're okay with a larger plant. Also, if you have pets or small children, make sure the plant that you are getting isn't toxic to them. Many houseplants are unfortunately toxic, but there are tons that are not. So just be aware of that. So I hope that gave you some ideas for purchasing plants. One of my favorite really easy plants to grow is pothos. They just grow like crazy. I have several of them and they don't require much extra effort, so that is a great plant to start with. Let's talk about watering our plants. One thing to keep in mind is to water dry soil. So if the soil is still wet, you don't need to add more water. I usually water my plants about once a week. Sometimes they don't need water for another couple of days, so generally once a week. But I have a couple of plants that sometimes during different seasons, they need a little more water than once a week. So you'll just want to get to know your plant and what it needs, but generally once a week is good, but you don't want to water wet soil. It's also always best to water your plants in the morning. And because plants absorb nutrients and water through their roots, you want to water the soil rather than the leaves. Watering the leaves can not be too great for the plant, so you just want to make sure you water the soil, and that may require you to kind of push away the leaves a little bit to get to the soil. I also get asked a lot about orchids, and I wanted to share that all I do for my orchids is put in a few ice cubes. I do not water them at all. I just put in about 3 or 4 ice cubes once a week, and I keep my orchids in indirect sunlight, so they aren't in full sun, but they are getting plenty of sun, and that seems to work really well for them. The ice cubes, I think, are the trick, because once I started doing that, they started to rebloom, and I have some beautiful orchids. One is in full bloom right now, and then I have a smaller one that has some little buds on it, so I'm hoping that one blooms again as well. I wanted to share a few tips for common problems with houseplants. Yellowing leaves usually means that you are watering your plant too much, so you can just decrease the water a little bit, and then always remove those yellow leaves because they can attract pests. Also remove any brown leaves that your plant may have. A lot of times those are on the bottom, so just kind of look for those. Your plants want to be vibrant and healthy, and they no longer need to send nutrients to those dying leaves, so you want to remove those right away. White leaves tend to mean that your plant is getting too much sunlight and it doesn't need that much sunlight, so just move it into a spot where it's not getting as much sunlight. Another thing to keep in mind is almost all plants grow toward the sun. Monsteras tend to grow away from the sun, but pretty much all other plants grow toward the sun. You can avoid your plant looking kind of slanted if you turn it a quarter of the way, maybe every time you water it, or once a month. I have found it's easier to remember to do it every time you water, so just a quarter of the way, and that way it will continue to grow nice and straight instead of always trying to grow toward the sun. It's always good to remove dust from the leaves of your plant, and this is something that I get asked about. I usually use either a dry cloth or a damp cloth and just wipe the dust away, but the dust will clog the pores of your plant, so you do want to dust them and make sure they look nice and shiny and clean. They not only look better, but it is healthier for the plant. Okay, pests. Not fun, but it does happen sometimes. So the best thing to do to get rid of pests is add horticultural oil to your plant. And the gnats and things that come sometimes with plants will not bite you or harm you in any way, but they are very annoying. I did have some gnats in a plant recently, and I didn't have any horticultural oil, and I wanted to get rid of them right away. So I actually looked it up, and you can put a dish of apple cider vinegar. The scent will attract the gnats and they'll come and fall in. Also, you want to find where the gnats are coming from, and you can usually see them in the dirt of a plant. They are attracted to moist soil, so you'll want to let your plant dry out a little bit. Not dry out to the point where it's harmful for your plant, but just let the soil dry and then kind of look around. They're also really attracted to decaying plants. So if you have some parts of your plants that aren't doing too well and decaying, you want to remove that. If you do have an issue with gnats and it doesn't seem to be going away, you can repot your plant. So gently remove your plant from the soil and get as much soil as you can get off of the plant without ruining the roots or anything. Discard that soil and then repot it. So once I did that, my gnat issue went away. I used to get asked about gnats all the time, and I'm like, no, I've never really had an issue. And then this year I did have an issue for a short period of time, so I now know what to tell you to do. I hope you enjoyed this video and found it helpful. I really enjoyed learning more about houseplants from Skillshare, and don't forget you can get 2 months of Skillshare Premium by using the link in my description box below. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I hope you have a wonderful day.